This video is about to get very surgical, so stay with me. Drake not the only master manipulator out here, y'all. I said it. I repeat. Drake is not the only master manipulator out here, y'all. And I'm not gonna lie. There are some people who might even be more well-versed in their manipulation. Okay? Well, what we just found out in that Drake and Kendrick Lamar lawsuit that's happening and going on, there's a specific verse and some specific lines in Port Antonio that exposed J. Cole and his true intentions this whole time. I told you I was about to get very surgical, so before you get upset, hear my argument. If you disagree, you disagree. If you agree, you agree. But one thing we can't ignore is pattern recognition. Okay? Now, today is the anniversary of 7 Minute Drill. And I thought it was the perfect time to dissect the history of all the shit that's been going on. The song I'm talking about is Port Antonio, and the second verse is what we're going to highlight. Okay? But before we get to that, we have to recognize the actions of somebody before we talk about the intention of somebody. Okay? Because pattern recognition will show you what somebody's intentions are. All right? We got to talk about first-person shooter first. I believe that this was an attempt to rewrite the history of the Big Three. A Big Three that Kendrick has never acknowledged, and a Big Three that Drake only acknowledged in an interview with Elliott Wilson. Most of the Big Three propaganda has come from who? Okay. This isn't just about the lyrics, and that's what people don't understand. A lot of people think that it's all about the lyrics. No, it's also about the optics. Because the lyrics can hide true intention, the optics cannot. With the lyrics, you can sway things and be passive aggressive and do things in a backhanded way. With the optics, you kind of showing us what your true intention is. Now, a first-person shooter, the reason I know this is because if you look at the lyrics, you can tell. Now that we know the type of guy Drake is, he's constantly in a state of attempting to manipulate, an attempt to rewrite history, which I'm not surprised if you understand his anyway. You can tell by the lyrics in this song, this is what they were attempting to do, and the timing of the song. This song comes out after Kendrick Lamar drops Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, an album that wasn't supposed to be commercial, and people judged the album as if it was supposed to be commercial. And a lot of people who didn't understand the album were trying to write off Kendrick Lamar during that time. You see what I'm saying? There were a lot of narratives around this album, especially when the first week numbers came out. Okay? A lot of people were trying to make the attempt to say that Kendrick Lamar fell off, that Kendrick Lamar boom, which was cool because the album has to age first, and it did. But that's when these guys decide to drop this song. Right? So now, you got Drake and J. Cole, two members of the Big Three, going back and forth, talking about how they're the ones leading this new generation. Drake has the song that the bars about, I love talking to women and over dinner and they arguing about who to go. And I say, yeah, who to go, insinuating that these women are talking about him being the GOAT. But then in the same stanza, he says that it's just you and Cole. So he's telling you that these women are telling him that the only two GOATs or the only two people in this conversation is him and J. Cole. Who are they leaving out? Kendrick Lamar. Okay? Why would Drake do this? Because J. Cole is a less of a threat to the image of Drake than Kendrick Lamar is. That's what the master manipulation comes in. Now, what J. Cole does, and this is where his master manipulation comes in, is him pretending to be naive. That's where J. Cole's master manipulation comes in. He pretends to be naive and easily manipulated so that he can push an agenda without getting the criticism. He's fully aware of what Drake is trying to do. He pretends he's not. Okay? And you notice because J. Cole also had lines where he says, the Spider-Man meme is me looking at Drake. Okay? Now, a lot of people say, well, Kendrick Lamar was supposed to be on the song, so J. Cole wrote his verse. No. If J. Cole had wrote his verse before he found out Kendrick Lamar, when he thought Kendrick Lamar was going to be on the song, why is he saying the Spider-Man meme is only him and Drake? What happened to Kendrick? Oh. Anyway, he also goes on to say that, is K. Dot is at Aubrey and me. We the big three like a start of the league, but right now I feel like Muhammad Ali. Once again, stamping his place in the big three. Okay? The big three was a facade. That was something that J. Cole continued to amplify after a certain fan base created this idea. You see what I'm saying? And we recognize this, of course, but in the history of the big three, if you was really there, we all know there was a lot of different people that could have been in that conversation, okay? And then we move on to the tour. And Drake and J. Cole make it a point to continue to not acknowledge each other as people who are moving the generation without mentioning Kendrick Lamar. Drake constantly saying, you probably the only person I see as an equal. Blah, blah. Who do you think that's a shot at? You can't ignore this no more when we see everything that Drake is doing today. He knows what he's doing. Every move is an attempt to rewrite history. And that's what people do of his lineage. Anyway. So then, Kendrick Lamar says, oh, y'all want to play games? Boom. Drops like that. Doesn't really say much to J. Cole at all. Besides, F the big three, it's just Big Me. The person he really went at was Drake. So why was J. Cole the first one to jump out the window? Interesting. Let's look at 7 Minute Drill. Now, remember when I said they were attempting to rewrite history based on the current circumstances of what went on? They really thought that Kendrick Lamar had fell off and all this different stuff? No, that can't be true, Jalopy. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, well, how come in this song he says this? He's still doing shows but fell off like The Simpsons. Doesn't that validate my theory? Your first shit was classic. Your last shit was tragic. Another validation of my theory. Your second put people to sleep, but they gassed it. But didn't you say wasn't you one of the main people claiming that this was a great album? Which is why he went on to apologize, by the way. Because he didn't believe this, but he felt like he had to say it. And I think a lot of people think he felt like he had to say it because of the battle. I think he was trying to diminish Kendrick Lamar's legacy. You go on, right? Which, honestly, is not that big of a deal. It's just a battle. But I'm making these points to let you know that this is clearly what they were doing, dating back to first-person shooter, okay? I was trailing right behind, and I just now hit mine. Now, in front of the line with a comfortable lead. This is how you paint the narrative. What insinuated that you were at the front of the line, and what in any way or fashion? How ironic, as soon as I got it, now he wants something with me. So because Kendrick Lamar hadn't dropped nothing, because you also believe that Kendrick Lamar fell off. Okay? Then you try to disbrand the Grammys because Kendrick Lamar has more Grammys than all of y'all. Okay? But then you really don't hate the Grammys because you submitted Might Delete Later, the very album that this song was on, to the Grammys. It's getting surgical as hell in this motherfucker, bro. Okay? Then, He averaging one hard verse like every 30 months or something. If he wasn't dissing them, we wouldn't be discussing them. Aren't you constantly begging somebody to come at you? Okay. Now, I think J. Cole is jealous of Kendrick Lamar. I think he's been jealous of Kendrick Lamar. Initially, I thought that it was just on, like, you know, the competitive jealous, where it's like, he's just competitively jealous of Kendrick Lamar. Okay? I'm fine with that. You know, as long as you competing outright. That's the nature of competing with somebody. But I can validate this by using the bars he had at Heaven's EP when he says, some people say that I'm running third, they threw the bronze at me. Behind Drake and Dot, yeah, them is superstars to me. Maybe deep down, I'm afraid of my luminosity, so when you see me on red carpets, I'm moving awkwardly. I appreciate the vulnerability, but there's not enough accountability. That's been my theme with J. Cole. There's always vulnerability, not enough accountability. All right? Now, we just talked about how first-person shooter was an attempt to rewrite history for the turning generation, because you got to remember, this is at the top of the 2020s. A new generation is about to listen to hip-hop. If you set the narrative at the top of the decade, you can land the narrative for the rest of the decade. And that's what they were attempting to do. You know this because he then validates these claims in 7-minute drill. All right? But then he goes on to apologize. All right? And I believe he apologized not because he seen where it was about to go, but because the reception of the song was not good. Most people were not liking the song. Like That was still miles ahead of this song. And he knew if Kendrick Lamar, if you drop a diss track in response and you didn't even touch the verse that was the first shot, even though first person shooter was the first shot, you got to take this song down. You got to get in front of it before you get punched in the mouth for real. Because now people are going to be looking at you extra crazy. That's why I think he apologized. I don't think he apologized for the reasons y'all think he did. I think he used the idea of the image that he created for J. Cole fans to hide behind the fact that he was terrified of what Kendrick Lamar was about to do to him. Don't worry, though. I'll validate that claim soon. As a matter of fact, no, J. Cole will validate that claim soon. Now let's get to the meat and potatoes. We just found out in the lawsuit with Drake and Kendrick Lamar, right, that bots were not involved in Not Like Us for Kendrick Lamar. They were not involved. UMG sent letters to Drake's lawyer. They exchanged letters, and it's been proven that Kendrick Lamar is not being botted or anything of the nature. Okay? So now Drake's lawsuit is being diminished to just defamation. Okay? So all these bot allegations and all that shit that they've been doing for months and months and months to invalidate Kendrick Lamar have been proven false, but that isn't going to be reported by people because OVO is paying propaganda. Okay? I can break that down too, but that's not for this video. Notice how I had to go to a January 15th article to even pull this up in the first place. All right? Now, I want y'all to remember when the announcement of Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl came out. This was in September, okay? September is when they announced Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl. A lot of rappers were upset, and they showed this by either not saying something or saying something. All right? You had sneak comments by all types of people saying Kendrick Lamar isn't going to be able to do the Super Bowl because of A, B, and C, and D, and that was the main narrative. But that's when the bot allegations got strong too. Right around the time that the Super Bowl was announced was when the very strong hit pieces came out against Kendrick Lamar in hopes to diminish his run to the Super Bowl or get him off of the Super Bowl. You know, that was Drake's goal with the lawsuit, right? Now, to make sure Not Like Us not performed the Super Bowl. Okay? Now, I say that because you got to remember the timeline. The height of these bot allegations were never higher than they were at this time. On social media and on them talking about his songs, right? Because you got to remember, a lot of people were trying to say that, or Drake's camp or whatever were trying to say that Kendrick Lamar's camp was sending bots to all Drake tweets, was sending bots to anything involving Drake. Okay? Which is what they do, is what they're really doing, they accuse the enemy of doing, so that knowing that Kendrick Lamar isn't going to refute these allegations. That brings me to Port Antonio. When did Port Antonio come out? October 9th. Weeks after the Super Bowl announcement. No congratulations from J. Cole, the guy who thinks Kendrick Lamar is such an incredible artist and of this generation, all this different stuff. No. But this instead. Okay? Now, you don't owe anybody congratulations. But when you feed into narratives in order to diminish what somebody's doing, we see what you're doing, all right? Let's go straight to the second verse, okay? They instigate the fuckery because it's profitable, but singing Stop the Violence tunes when dudes in hospitals. I pulled the plug because I seen where I was about to go. They wanted blood, they wanted clicks to make their pockets grow. Okay. What's interesting is, aren't you the same guy who had no issue doing a full-blown attack on Lil Pump? Somebody who obviously cannot defend themselves in a way that would be, in a way that would look any type of way. Aren't you the same guy who had no issue with dissing Kanye West when he was strapped in a straitjacket and he couldn't do anything to respond? Aren't you the same guy who had no issues with having beef with Diggy Simmons? Aren't you the same guy who had no issues with having beef with Wale? Are y'all seeing a pattern here? There's a pattern of J. Cole punching down. But the second he has to punch up or straight, now they wanted to promote the fuckery because it's profitable. Okay, so what were you doing with Lil Pump? Were you promoting? You was okay with the promoting that fuckery. You was okay with the promoting the fuckery. You dissed Kanye West when he was mentally ill, at the height of his mental illness, and couldn't get out the hospital. You had no issue with that then, but now you have this morale of, oh, we bigger than this. Hip hop isn't about beef, and it's about reaching your hearts, speaking your thoughts, pushing ourselves, reaching the charge, reaching your minds, keeping your hearts, creeping to find, emotions to touch, something inside to open you up, helping you cope with the rough times. Oh, okay. So what about the 176,000 verses of you begging somebody to try you? Oh. But that's not even what we about to expose. Let's talk about this line right here. Where is it at? Right here. Now that we know that there was no bots involved in Kendrick Lamar, right? This ages terribly. Since the age of 14, Jermaine's no king. If that means I gotta dig up dirt and pay the whole team on social of algorithm bot just to sway the whole thing on social media, competing for your favorable memes. To be considered best alive and rest, the way to both things, that I understand the thirst of being first that made them both swing. Great rhyming patterns, by the way. You see what I'm saying? Very good technical abilities. He rapped like he went to school. He rapped like he studied, like he read how to rhyme 101. Like it's like very NPC almost. But isn't it ironic that during the height of the bot allegations for Kendrick Lamar, right after the Super Bowl announcement for Kendrick Lamar, here comes verses about using bots and boom, boom, boom. And who was the winner of the battle? Kendrick Lamar. So what you do is you see all the fans tarnishing your legacy because you apologized, including J. Cole fans. Okay? So what you do is, because you try to paint Drake and Kendrick Lamar as these money-hungry Mongols who just wanted to spin the narrative in order to make money and destroy the... No. You was the first person to drop a diss track, my guy. You was the first person to, I mean, we don't like that was a diss verse, don't get me wrong. But you was the first person to drop a diss track. So you can't do that. And with mentioning the bots, now that we know that was fake, why did you try to add on to that narrative? Now what J. Cole fans would do is say, he was talking about social media bots. He was talking about the bots on social media, not Kendrick Lamar's songs. That's what J. Cole does. He plays naive by being passive aggressive and throwing backhanded compliments, but still jabbing at you. And when he does this, it puts you in a position where if you respond to him, you look like you're being a bully. And that's the stance that J. Cole takes. He puts himself in a position where he's naive. He's this nice, humble guy. So if you do something about it, you're a bully. And what he attempted to do was put himself in a position where he seems to be the only person with integrity and respect by saying they just wanted blood and they wanted money. Okay? Because who's they? People say they is the machine. They is the... No. They see this fire in my pen and think I'm dodging smoke. I wouldn't have lost the battle dog. I would have lost the bro. You wouldn't have lost the bro for saying... the dude had a bad albums. For saying he fell off. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? And the fact that you lied about these bots makes you look extremely jealous and suspect. The time of the song coming out makes you look extremely jealous and suspect. Okay? People say he was talking about Drake. But then he gets on his knees and begs Drake to not diss him. Because what y'all don't remember is Drake was gearing up to diss J. Cole. Y'all forgot about that, huh? They was doing, Mal was on an interview talking about Drake feels some type of way of J. Cole backing out the battle. Drake was posting memes making fun of J. Cole. And that's the only person's name you mentioned directly? You never say Kendrick Lamar in this song. None of that. The only time you mention anything positive about Kendrick Lamar is when you say, my friends went to war, I walked away with all their blood on me. You didn't walk away with any blood on you, motherfucker. No blood was spilled. Like that was the only song that came out at that point. You walked away before any blood got spilled. I'm feeling myself become irritated even talking about this, bro. Because the fact that people are being manipulated into thinking that this dude has no idea what he's doing is the master manipulation at work. He knows exactly what he's doing. He always knows exactly what he's doing. And he apologizes for it and tries to take it back. Because he's trying to please everybody while throwing jabs and trying to cement his place in history. You can't cement your place in history by ducking smoke, crying, apologizing, and then trying to spin back like, what if I would have did something? What if I would have said something? No. Absolutely not. You tried to add on to these bot allegations while they were hot on Kendrick Lamar. There weren't no super bot allegations on Drake at this point in time. The hit piece was on Kendrick Lamar. And y'all gonna try to rewrite history to protect this dude. No. Okay? If they wanted clips to make their pockets grow, what the fuck was you doing? You didn't pull no blood because you seen what it was about to go. You pulled your plug because you was scared. And why are you assuming that somebody gonna end up in a fucking hospital? You ain't had no problem with, was somebody gonna end up in a hospital when you in Lil Pump? Was somebody gonna end up in a hospital when you dissed Kanye? Was somebody gonna be in a hospital when you dissed Diggy Simmons? What he's trying to do is create this lane for himself where people still put him up there. That's what this song was about. To rewrite history, make Drake happy, and try to diminish Kendrick Lamar without directly dissing Kendrick Lamar. Because he was jealous of what Kendrick Lamar was doing. Kendrick Lamar fully separated himself from Drake and J. Cole, and they can't live with that. And people can't imagine that because J. Cole has this humble, I love everybody, I'm humble, I ride bikes. Okay? I can't respect this shit, bro. It's corny, bro. And you lied and you knew what you was doing when you aided the bot narrative. Because the bot narrative only got stronger after this song. He knew what he was doing. I don't give a what nobody talking about. He's a master manipulator at work here. Stop falling for it. He know what he doing just like Drake know what he doing, just like Kendrick know what he doing. Don't this motherfucker got a degree in communications? Man. To wrap this whole thing up, everything points to the fact that the goal was to rewrite history, to push J. Cole up, push Kendrick down, and keep Drake where he is in order for them to be the top two coming forward. Drake did it because J. Cole is not a threat to him. Okay? J. Cole did it because he wanted to be above Kendrick Lamar. And now, both of those ideas are gone. And without J. Cole's attachment to the big three, what does he have? As far as his stance and legacy. J. Cole ruined his legacy. He dropped Clouds and everybody was on his ass about apologizing. But this song right here, master manipulation. And it didn't work. The only people it worked for was his fan base. And also, some people will say, oh, Drake is the only one that's been accused of pushing bots on social media. Okay. But at that time, Kendrick Lamar was being accused of it. I understand the thirst of being first that made them both swing. You're thirsty to be first too. Stop. Stop. You are not this. I am not of this earth. I have no, what's it called? I'm not of this earth. I'm in the earth. Accept the fact that you are just as flawed as everybody else. And not just with the vulnerability, but with the accountability too. Not with just saying, being honest about how you feel, but taking accountability for your faults too. In these situations. That's all. I appreciate y'all for coming. I'm not finna edit this video or nothing. This is all coming straight from the heart. You see what I'm saying? And this is how I genuinely feel. I want you to see how y'all feel about it. But thank y'all. Like, comment, subscribe. And you know what? I think I got another video for J. Cole on the anniversary of the apology. Cause no. We on his ass. We on his ass after that shit came out. Because you helped build this idea on Kendrick Lamar. And it's fucking false. Love y'all.